This is The Dig on the Huskers Radio Network podcast. Powered by Emeritus. Featuring Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Kelly Hunter. Here's your host, Jessica Coody.
Welcome into a postseason edition of The Dig. Husker volleyball clinching a share of the Big Ten tournament, or Big Ten championship, and now we'll head to the NCAA tournament starting this week. Joining us this week is Lindsay Peterson. Thanks so much for being here. Congratulations. Man, what a grind it was, but you got a share of that title and you got a trophy, more hardware coming back to Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the Big Ten. Winning the Big Ten was tougher than winning a national championship. It is 10 weeks of grinding it out, and especially this year, this has been the hardest year in the Big Ten with the teams they've added, the travel, the strength of schedule that we faced, and just the caliber that the Big Ten volleyball was at this year. So it was a grind. There was no night off, and you could see it starting to wear on our players a little bit mentally and physically. But, we tell them this, you have 3 seasons basically through the year. We have our non-conference, our conference season, and then the NCAA season. And so it was very rewarding to see where we ended up at, making it through conference at 19-1 in this conference. And, we were 19-1 last year and won it. And so Coach said beginning of the year, he said it's going to take probably the team of the century to go undefeated in this conference to try to win it. And, we were 2 games away from doing that. But we faced some really tough competition in Penn State down at the end. And our players responded and coming back the next night at Maryland, and that's what we like to see. So we're extremely excited that we have the Big Ten. It was a goal of ours, and for them to accomplish that is something we're very proud of, and we know it was no easy task.
You've been a part of a number of Big Ten and conference championships. Where does this one rank among the hardest, the hardest one to get?
I would say this has been the hardest. I mean, several years. Last year we knew with a week and a half left in season that we'd already clinched it. This year you're going into the last weekend on the road trying to find out if you clinch or have a share, and just the travel. I mean, we were on the road a ton in November, and like I talked, just the strength of schedule that the Big Ten had was one of the toughest seasons we've had in conference play. And you like to think that's going to really bode well for us as we head into the NCAA. I mean, you look at 9 teams making the NCAA tournament out of the Big Ten, and there was so many other teams that, are right there and had big wins too. But the Big Ten was a grind this year, and conference in itself is tough because you have to be good for 10 weeks. And that's something that really wears on your players because especially as you hit towards the end of those last 2 to 3 weeks, your bodies are breaking down, you're breaking down mentally, you're getting in that part of the year, weather's changing, and school's amping up as it's coming to an end, and there's so many other outside distraction and factors that play a toll that also make it such a challenge.
The Penn State loss and then having to turn right around and play Maryland, the back-to-back, and then the emotional toll that takes. I mean, you go into this weekend like, okay, we've got 2 chances to win it here this weekend, but still just having to turn around. What can you say about just the response from the team? I know that could not have been easy to be disappointed on a Friday and have to turn right around and face a Maryland team, just in a back-to-back like that in that kind of situation. That could not have been an easy ask for this team.
Yeah, it was difficult, and we talked about that. We talked about it after the match at Penn State, and then again Saturday morning when we were in Maryland and meeting as a team. It just that we looked at film and saw areas that we let things go that the night before at Penn State where we had our opportunities and knowing what was on the line. And so it was disappointing, but we saw a lot of things we did well and knowing that we had to turn around and respond to still achieve our goal. And so it was a big ask for our players, but we remind them they did that last year. Like we lost at Wisconsin and we had to turn around and play a tough Minnesota team on the road the next night and had a battle there. So it's what we're going to see this weekend in tournament. You have to be great back-to-back nights, and you have to be able to, put the night before, whether it was your best performance or your not so great performance, you have to be able to learn from it and apply it to the next night. And that was really what we stressed these players is, hey, we did a lot of good things to take over. There's some things we got to get better at. And we need to, there's urgency in this. We have to take that and apply it to our next match. And they did a good job responding at Maryland.
What were some of those things? Because, I mean, this team has been so good, and then you don't play your best, and that's what Coach Cook had said in the postgame. They competed hard, but it just wasn't our best night. And it's going to happen, I know, for teams. You just can't expect everybody to be perfect every night they're out there. But what were some of those issues when you guys dove into that film that, hey, this is where we've got to be better?
Well, when you looked at all the statistics, we won a lot of the categories. And so that was a little disheartening to see how we won those, but then we couldn't win the match. And the biggest area was in kills. Penn State was killing the ball. We didn't kill the ball well in transition. I mean, we continued to give them hope and let them be in the match and give them momentum, because we would make a great defensive play, but we couldn't come back and transition to a kill. And they found ways to get kills when they would make defensive plays. And so that wears on a team. So we're just talking about we've got to be better in transition. We work hard on defense. We get great touches on the block. We got to transition that back and make them pay when we have that opportunity. So looking at that, looking a little bit on our block setup and areas that some of the rotations that maybe we needed to rotate out of a little quicker or make some changes in quicker to try to get out of passing lineups and stuff. But that was a good thing for us to see. We needed to see that, because a lot of times if you're winning, and I think we talked to Coach, mentioned that we'd only lost 9 sets of volleyball, and you don't learn a lot when you're winning like that. And so playing a team like Penn State that exposed some weaknesses and showed us areas that, hey, we maybe weren't at our best, and what we have to, the level we're going to have to be at moving forward these next 3 weeks is hopefully a blessing in disguise for us. And how our team applies that these next 3 weeks, we'll see. But I think that they saw where we can get better and saw where we let some things go, and know that those are easily things that we can control. We're not asking them to try to reinvent the wheel to try to make those changes.
So then, is that something where you guys will make tweaks to some rotations? Maybe how you start? Coach had said, against Maryland, maybe you started in rotation 2 as opposed to 1. Is that just something where you change the personnel in the rotations, or how do you guys go about tweaking it? Not to give anything away, but is that something you'll figure out throughout this week?
Yeah, we'll look at it this week. We have, in every rotation, you have different sets you can run that help you, whether, depending on if there's a server really stressing a certain passer, or they're trying to slow down our middles and how they're attacking us serving. So, every rotation we have different options, and just understanding when to get out of something that may not be working well for us, maybe the matchups where we start, so we're in a rotation less if we feel like the matchups won't be great. So those are things we'll have to look at this week. But and then just getting our hitters and Bergen more comfortable in transition, finding a way to get up and get kills, and not giving the other team an easy ball. They have to continue to stress them and challenge them if we make a great defensive play, that has to be a plus for us, and we have to come back with pressure offensively.
Another thing that JB and Lauren talked quite a bit about, I think in both matches, were just the tips that your hitters were doing instead of the kills. Why is that something that maybe happens in any given match, and why is that something maybe you don't want to do as much of?
Well, tipping the ball is strategic. Obviously, if you hit at them all the time, the defense isn't going to expect that. So there's the right time and place to tip, and it's great for our hitters to have that in their toolbox and throw those out, and it keeps the defense on their toes. But when you do it when it's obvious, or you give it away, or you're doing it where it's not stressing them at all, it's more like a free ball. So being more strategic with where we're placing those, and also making sure that we're not just doing that as a way out because we didn't feel like we had an opportunity to make a swing, or we didn't feel comfortable making a swing. We talked to our hitters about making smart decisions. If your feet aren't to the ball, you can't blast it if you're not there. So maybe tipping into the block and trying to recycle to let us reset and get going again. But making decisions that way and really seeing the game, and not just using it as a tip just to throw it over the net and hope we're going to win it on defense. So, there's a way that we can continue to work on that, and we do that in practice to try to figure out ways that when we tip that we're causing a lot of stress for the other team. But we also got to build some confidence when we're in those situations where, we're out of system and everyone knows where the ball's going to be set. Our hitters are able to take big swings at those points.
Coach had mentioned, too, after that he had a conversation with Merritt Beeson, and Merritt said, I'm going to be Merritt Beeson tonight going into the Maryland match. And just, again, talk about pressure and this, I think this team knows, everybody knows that for you guys to be great, you need Merritt to be great. So for her to respond, and the captain, for her to be able to get another Big Ten title, that had to be special, too. Just I think we go about a season and you hear these stories, but then, you saw her crying on senior night, and it just, you just forget just the process of all of it. And then, hey, again, sometimes you're going to be human from time to time.
Right. And we talked too. I mean, Lexi and Merritt have carried a huge load for us. It's not easy being a captain. I mean, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders that people don't see. It's not just the performance on the court. You're taking care of your team off the court. You're worrying about team matters. You're worrying about making sure everyone feels like they're part. If somebody's having a bad day, taking care of them. So you're constantly giving and giving and giving. And I feel like at times maybe our captain's tanks get a little low, and so they need to fill that back up. And when they have the load they have on the court, and then also the load off the court, I mean, they're extremely gifted volleyball players, and so they carry a big load for our team and have the expectations to perform at a high level every night. But then they also have the expectations as captains that people don't understand and see, and what toll that takes and how that can really take away from their mental capacity as well. And so making sure that they go into these next 3 weeks in a good place, and our team understands that they have to give to the captains just as much as our captains are giving, and be making sure they're in a good spot. And we talk about that all the time too. Like it's not a sign of weakness. Like everybody has that. Everyone runs into points where their tank is empty and they need somebody to help fill it back up. And just because you have title captain behind your name doesn't mean you're excluded from feeling that or having a bad day. It's just that's when others on the team have to step up. And the great thing is we have some incredibly experienced players on our team, and we have players that are very wise. And players I think of like Kennedy and Layla, who are upperclassmen who have been on the team, have been through this, are great people to step in and help fill that load and carry some of that weight for them.
Great stuff. You think about where we were a year ago, which seems like yesterday, but just, this such a young team, and you didn't really know what to expect. How does it feel different now that you've punched a ticket, you see the name, you get to host throughout, but how does it feel different with this group going into this season? Yeah,
I mean, last year we were just kind of on a high. We didn't know what to expect. We were a young team. Everyone was expecting at some point that freshman meltdown's going to happen, and our team just played fearless, and we were almost a little naive going into it. But this year it's been a completely different course for us. I mean, we've had the target on our back from day one. There's been a lot of expectations from day one. We've had our challenges, and this team has had to work through a lot more than what we've faced last year. And, last year was kind of a fairy tale with everything that took place and riding high. And this year has been like, a grind, and it's also been a challenge and more adversity. And so where we're at today is not the same path as where we were a year ago. And we talked to that about our team last night. Like, we are not the same team, but we're also, when you look at us statistically, we've improved in a lot of areas than we were last year. And last year we felt like we were a pretty confident team going into the final, or into this final 3 weeks. So we have earned the right to feel that way for this year as well. It may not have looked the same or felt the same at some points, but we've earned that right, and we're on paper a better team, and that shows that we've all grown, and every player has grown is indifferent than they were last year at this time, and we need to use that to our advantage and carry that confidence and experience into these 3 weeks.
When you go into a selection Sunday, and this I feel like this is with basketball too, you can maybe kind of project a little bit, but when it's all said and done, does it matter much about the draw? I mean, I guess the most important thing is getting one of those top 4 seeds that you get to host throughout, and then the rest you got to beat everybody, right?
Right. I mean, our reward for our season and what we accomplished through the Big Ten and how we, our strength of schedule that we played, our reward was that top 4 seed, and everybody wants that. I mean, it is a great advantage to be at home for those first 2 weeks and have your fans, and you're not traveling in the stress of travel. So that is definitely an accomplishment in itself for us, and we're very grateful for that, to have that opportunity. But yeah, like you said, I mean, everybody's starting right now 0-0. It doesn't matter what we've accomplished in the weeks up to this point. Each game is do or die from here on out, and so everybody's playing with that same mentality. So people are approaching the games differently. They're not coming in like you would think a week 4 conference, because you still have 6 weeks ahead of you. They're coming in because each game could be their last. And we like to, we train in a manner to prepare that we're playing at that level in practice every day. So it's not coming into these 3 weeks and have to find a whole nother gear to turn it up to, or a whole nother level. We hope we've done that all year and sustained that. But we don't know what to expect. I mean, you have to beat the good teams to get to the Final Four. It doesn't matter what draw you get. You're going to face a really good team or two along the way to get there. And we know that. And so our focus is our side of the net, and we take it point by point and match by match. And then we see what's in front of us as we move forward. But you know, when the draw comes out, the draw comes out, and there's a lot of parity and talent in college volleyball right now. And so I think you look at those top 8 to 10 seeds, and there could be some upsets along the way, and it wouldn't surprise anybody, I think, with how the season has gone and just looking at the strength of some of these teams.
Because I think, you know, as a fan base, probably the first thing you look to is, oh, look, Wisconsin's on our side of the bracket. But for you guys, it's really, hey, and this is what it's been all season long. Even when I would ask you guys about, hey, who are you playing on Sunday or whatever, or Saturday, who's the next one? A lot of times it's one match at a time. And I feel like that's probably got to be the mindset going into this same thing, right? I mean, it's one match at a time. We can't think about who we're playing 2 weeks from now.
Absolutely. You can't put the cart before the horse, and our players know that, and they know the importance of focusing on that match and being in the present moment and not looking ahead. And we can't look behind either. We can't look at, you know, how we played this past weekend and have that in our mind. You know, we learn and move forward, and we got to be where our feet are right now. And we feel like we're in a good place, and we have confidence, and we have a great team. And so our staff is going to do everything in its power these next, you know, there's 20 days till we crown a national champion. And so we're going to do everything as a team and a staff to be in that for these 20 days and be there and have an opportunity to try to bring a national championship home.
So we talked earlier about some of the things that maybe you guys learned and maybe were exposed a little bit, but how does this team approach this week? What are the goals for this week, again, as you prepare for multiple teams that you haven't seen, different styles, all of that? Is it kind of, again, still a balance of working on us and then also preparing for opponents? Absolutely.
I mean, we're going in this week, first one, recovery, and is our most importance right now for our team is, like we said, it's been a grind, and you can see it starting to take a toll on players. And so making sure that our players are doing everything in their power to recover and put themselves in a position to be great. So we'll look at that and making sure our players are fresh going into this weekend. We'll obviously be prepping for our opponents and scouting for what we'll be facing this weekend, but then making sure we're our best, because if we're at our best on our side of the net, we're going to be a really tough team to beat, and that's got to be our focus, and making sure that we improve in those areas. And we always talk about trying to get 1% better, and everybody has something to work on to go into this week to bring to this team to help us to get that 1% better.
So have you guys had much time to dive into Florida A&M yet? What's that matchup look like?
Yeah, Coach, the staff will be doing that today. I mean, videos were exchanged. Once you get the schedule and know who you're matched up with, then that's when the videos will go into to exchange portal, and they'll start pulling those and start scouting that. So we'll see. There'll be a team that probably won't be as physical as what we faced in the Big Ten, but it's a different style of volleyball that our players are going to have to be ready to adjust to. And, you know, they're going to be a team that's pumped to be where they're at and in it, and excited to be in the NCAA tournament, and we know we'll get their best shot. So, like I said, our focus is obviously we'll break down and see what tendencies are and see what's going to put our team in the best position, and then also making sure that we're in the best position on our side of the net as well.
Helps to have that crowd inside Devaney behind you, too, here for the next couple
weeks. Yeah, we'll take Husker Nation. That's something that we never take for granted, and we know we'll play a big role in these next weeks as we move forward to trying to get to the Final Four.
Well, best of luck. Thank you for being here, and congratulations again on another Big Ten title. Are you running out of spaces for your rings?
Yeah, well, that's all right. I'll take that problem any day. So,
awesome.
Thank you.
All right, and Lindsay Peterson joining us here on The Dig. Again, Huskers taking on Florida A&M, 7 o'clock inside the Devaney Center. We'll have the call for you here on the Huskers Radio Network with JB and Lauren starting at 6 o'clock with the pregame show. Thanks for listening and watching, and as always, The Dig is powered by Emeritus. It's proud to power this podcast and all of Husker women's sports.